Sesame Street ABC and 1-2-3 for Nintendo. A real kid's game. Actually more of a preschooler game, but whatever, semantics and all. Released in 1991 by High-Tech Expressions and developed by Rare, yes, that Rare, and originally two separate NES releases, Sesame Street ABC and 1-2-3. Hello, future me here. Yeah, I flipped the last two parts of the title quite a few times here, but by the time I noticed, I just didn't care to go back, so just roll with it. Really doesn't matter in the long run. It's a collection of minigames designed to teach youngsters how to count things, as well as read letters and such. Yes, it is a collection of edutainment titles, which is usually an excuse for some hack video reviewers of the angry type to go rapey, this game sucks, grr, die, insert some innuendo jokes, why did I play this, blah blah blah, and then Mike Matei shows up to do a shitty Elmo impersonation. Well, we're not doing that crap here, because this Sesame Street compilation of two NES compilations of minigames that were originally sold separately for various home computer formats didn't really rub me the wrong way, nor did it feel like a complete waste of time playing it. Now, it did put me to sleep, however, but that's okay, because I'm not the target audience. This is a kids game aimed at kids, and not a kids game aimed at kids like Rambo or Friday the 13th. Minigames basically boil down to picking the correct answer to whatever question they're asking, whether it be counting things, matching shapes, or whatever else. And then some animation will play out if you answer correctly, and if you don't, you'll be nudged to make a certain choice. And after answering a number of questions, for lack of a better term, you get a little jingle play out before returning to the main menu, or the main menu of the collection of minigames that you're playing. Each of the games featured are somewhat stylized differently and have different approaches, but it all boils down to the same sort of thing and not much else to say there. Kinda, sort of. Astro Grover focuses on counting. Count how many zips or aliens are on screen to light up the Sesame Street, pick the beam that captures the number of zips specified on the spaceship to raise it, do some basic arithmetics. Letter Go Round has you pressing a button at the right time to pick the letter specified on the bottom, and there's variations including completing words or discovering secret words. Ernie's Shapes have you matching shapes and their colors. From simple puzzles to slightly more complex segments require you to pick the shapes to recreate the figure on screen. And finally, there's Ernie's Big Splash Thing, a simplistic pipeline-esque game where you lay out a preset path for Ernie's rubber ducky to reach Ernie's bathtub, and when the path is completed, the journey is played out via little animations for each tile, probably the most enjoyable of the bunch in a sort of relaxing, therapeutic fashion. The controls for Sesame Street ABC 1-2-3 are as follows. The D-pad moves the cursor, the A and B button selects the highlighted option, and select and start goes back. And when I say the D-pad moves the cursor, that's all it does. You have no specific control over whether the cursor moves up or down, left or right. It will cycle through the options available and then go backwards to the beginning of the cycle and repeat. This severely limits your control options, but to be perfectly fair, at the very least, they do work. It's not like there's much to do there anyways, and the babies aren't going to care either way, though it may mess with their perception of the cursor moving left when you're pressing right on the D-pad, and vice versa. Sometimes that extra step is helpful, especially if you're trying to teach the kids something, such as direction. So I want to say this is the best Sesame Street game pack to grace the NES, even though it's the only one that I've played. But it does collect the individual ABC and 1-2-3 carts into one nice, convenient package. Basically more Sesame Street fun for your buck, I suppose. But is it actually fun for the whole family? I don't know, depends on the family. And I'll leave it up to debate as to whether there's any educational merit to be had with any of the games featured here. All I know is that I dozed off a couple times while playing some of these games, and that's why you have these long pauses in between turns that I purposefully left in at times. That having been said, if I'm going to be honest, the games aren't too bad. Sure, they're very rudimentary and simplistic, control's not quite the greatest, but it's not like they were badly designed or anything. The county games with Grover function as well as they should. The Letter Go Round is a timing-based game that has a couple different modes to make things interesting. The Magic Shapes game is kind of fun. especially on the higher levels where you're picking out shapes to recreate the object on screen. And Ernie's Big Splash is probably the best version of Pipeline that I've played, because I hate Pipeline with a passion. Absolutely terrible game, that Pipeline, but that's just me. So, Sesame Street has some really nice graphics and animation for what is seemingly simple children's fare. The various Sesame Street characters are depicted accurately. The little animations that play out are slightly amusing. It looks the part, so there's that. And the sound is typical Rare quality. Some familiar sound effects are heard, some halfway decent jingles play at times, and there's a pretty good rendition of the Sesame Street theme song, complete with lyrics that you could sing along with if you wanted to, which I don't, so I won't. Feel free to do so if you know the lyrics, or even care at that point. So that was Sesame Street ABCs and 1-2-3s for Nintendo. It's a whole bunch of mini-games. It's aimed at youngsters. It has very rudimentary gameplay. Its effectiveness as a learning tool is somewhat debatable. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. However, there was some effort made to make this package worthwhile at least. It's Rare after all, they usually churn out good stuff. Usually, not always. And in terms of the overall production, it's not that bad of a game. Sure, I fell asleep a couple of times here and there while playing it, true story, but then again, I'm not the target audience. Regardless, I feel like it does what it does well enough and should entertain some of the kiddies, but probably not all. For those other ones, I'd recommend the other beloved kids classic, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I'm out of here!